Welcome back to the Best Fleets podcast. I'm your host, Chris Henry. For this latest edition, we have Adam Lang and Bonnie Ramsay from Halvor Lines based in Superior, Wisconsin. Halvor Lines is a 10-time participant and a 9-time winner of the Best Fleets to Drive for. In fact, they were recently nominated for the 11th time for this 2022 edition. Anyway, let's jump into it. We hope you enjoy. Well, Bonnie, Adam, welcome to the Best Fleets podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
I appreciate you taking the time for this. And for our viewers and our listeners out there, can you guys provide a little bit of a bio or history of Halvor Lines, a short one, and then a personal bio for each of you?
Sure. Bonnie, do you want me to speak to the bio?
Please.
So Halvor Lines started in 1968 as an owner-operator company. It was amongst 5 owner-operators, and it's grown over the years into a fleet that is now sitting at 600 trucks. We offer transportation and logistics services to the 49 contiguous states and Canada. Our modes of transportation are van, flatbed, refrigerated, and decked van. And we've just enjoyed some growth throughout the years that has really challenged us and benefited us and helped make us a better company.
Nice. And how did you guys get connected with Halvor Lines? What's the backstory for each of you there?
Bonnie, you should go.
I actually got a call from a colleague at a transportation management system company that talked with me about the fact that back in 2012, Halvor Lines had switched to a new TMS provider, and he worked support for that TMS provider. And he asked me how far away I'd lived at the time from Halvor. So he just turned me on to the fact that they had gone live a few months earlier with the new TMS, and they were maybe having some challenges that I could help with. And my husband and I have friends in the Superior area, Duluth area. So we've frequented the area probably monthly. So I decided to go ahead and reach out to the folks at Halvor, and it turned out that I knew someone and had previously worked at a different trucking company with one of the sales folks here at Halvor at the time. So I sent my resume up and, interviewed, and kind of the rest is history. That was just over 9 years ago now.
Wow. That's awesome. And Adam?
Wow. I was asked to join Halvor Lines in 2012 as their human resources director. And from there, kind of became more involved in safety, training, and driver services as the years went on. I did not come from a transportation background. My original background is actually health and human services. And I went to school for biology and chemistry, if you can believe that. But it's been a great company to work at. Halvor's been very welcoming, and I can't think of a better place to learn about trucking and transportation, because I think, as we all know, you learn something new about transportation every single day that you work in transportation. And the environment that you learn that in is extremely important. Halvor provides that great structure and a great opportunity to learn more and more every single day.
Yeah, and speaking of chemistry, I've had the opportunity to visit Halvor Lines with my past involvement in the TCA profitability program, and you guys definitely have a lot of personal chemistry, the whole team there. So I guess in a roundabout way, you've used that degree a bit.
I guess depends on how you're using the word. Yes.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts, I had as I mentioned, the opportunity to visit you guys a couple years back. I think it was in 2017, and I've traveled to 50, 60 different cities, most mid-sized cities in the US. And the Duluth Superior area was the most pleasant surprise that I've encountered. And I've mentioned this to a number of people. I wasn't expecting a lot, just to be straight up and honest. I flew in at night. It was rainy, got to the hotel near the airport, and not a big deal. When I woke up, I was extremely impressed. So I consider it, for Canadians, a kind of a mini Vancouver, a miniature Vancouver. And I guess for those that haven't visited Canada, it's kind of like a Seattle. So it has that vibe. So can you tell our viewers a little bit more about why you guys like the Superior-Duluth area?
I could speak to that quickly. I would say I agree with you. It is a very pleasant community. It's beautiful. I mean, I appreciate I'm born and raised Minnesotan. And unlike Adam, I've been in trucking for the last 24 years. But it's really nice and blue collar area. I always say it's the biggest small town I've ever lived in. Because there's a real small town sense of community amongst the folks that live in this area. But it is, we've got some of the cultural bells and whistles that you get with a little bit larger city. But everybody's very, very friendly. I mean, Minnesota Nice is taken to a new level in this area, to be honest. And I mean, if you're into any kind of sport whatsoever, you get good summer, good spring, good fall, good winter sports. And fishing, I mean, off the charts, right? It's Minnesota. So it's just really, really pleasant year round, as long as you're used to the extremes with the climate. And being born and raised Minnesota, I'm absolutely used to it. So it's lovely.
Nice. And I will mention too, one of my favorite hotels in all my travels is the Pier Resort. So if you're in the area, definitely check out that hotel. And it's an awesome location. So getting into the discussion about best fleets and your participation in it. For those that, if you're going to communicate to other carriers that haven't participated in best fleets in the past, can you describe the value and kind of the function internally and externally that best fleets provides Halvor Lines?
Well, for me, and I think for the majority of the team, the survey itself serves as an amazing checklist of ways to take inventory on your company culture and programs. And when you run into a question and you see that it's not something that you're currently doing, you instantly have this desire to want to do it, not only for the company, but to score well on the survey. If it's not something that you have in place, we take special attention to research why we don't and what we can do to get a program in place. So for us, it feels like as you go through it and you look at the programs and answer the questions, it really makes us take inventory of what we've done and how we can continuously improve. The fact that the survey changes, it's a living, breathing document that year over year will just add new tidbits and new ways to keep your company on its toes, to make sure that we're recruiting and retaining the best drivers and the best folks to support those drivers.
That's nice. Well stated. Bonnie, did you have anything to add in that regard?
No, I agree with Adam. I think it definitely makes us better. We strive, going through the questions and coming across different questions or answering them. And as we discover something that we're not already using or doing for our drivers in particular, but staff as well, it makes us better as an organization, and it really lends itself to our culture, which is nice because our culture is already so, in my opinion, very rich and good and healthy, that to be challenged a little bit more each year to strive to do better for everyone in the organization, that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's best fleets in general is impressive for what you all bring to us.
No, I love the answer, and that's something that reinforces what I tell carriers that are looking to get involved. If you're wanting it to be just about the recognition, you're in it for the wrong reasons. And you guys demonstrate, substantially that internal value. So when we do our best fleets consultation for those that participate, they have the option of scheduling a consultation with the Carriers Edge team. And this year, I think there was 11 people on that call from Halvor Lines. So typically it's going to be 1 or 2, maybe 3 people. But Halvor Lines, they take it seriously, and they had, I think it was 11 people on it. So I can definitely vouch for the focus on continuous improvement. So well done. So getting into some of the programs that we've observed and highlighted from your best fleet submissions from this past year and previous years. The first one that I want to talk about, it seems to be a new one, was the Halvor Lines High Five program. Can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Yeah, it's a very simple program, but it's proven very effective as well. When you work in the trucking industry, and especially in the safety department, that's where you tend to get phone calls about things and road observations and certain behaviors. But we also get positive phone calls. Not every phone call is a negative phone call about a driver interaction or a staff interaction. We do get a lot of positive phone calls. So when we get a positive road observation or just a special comment from a shipper or receiver that takes the time to communicate with us and let us know what a pleasure it was to have your driver there. Your driver treated me like family. They were very nice. They were very cordial. Their equipment was so clean. We hear that quite a bit. So we'll do a Facebook post about it and give the driver a virtual high five and include their name on there and talk about what it was that they did that was positive. So it's honest and open feedback that's meaningful. And I love getting those phone calls because then, kind of for selfish reasons, I love calling the driver and passing on that good information. And usually when the chief risk officer gives you a phone call, it may not be for a high five.
Mm-hmm.
But in the event that it is, it just gives me a very warm feeling and it surprises the driver. And then they're walking on air for a little bit of time too. We communicate it with their driver manager. And then of course, the team and Mary Bodie, who puts it out there on social media so that we can kind of, I guess, puff our chest up a little bit about our professional driver.
Yeah, no, you have your marketing game going very well. If anybody's looking for a model from a social media point of view, and you're in trucking, you should definitely take a look at what Halvor Lines is doing. And on the high five program, it's a simple program, but the reason that I thought it was something we should highlight today was it's just kind of a natural inclination of most people in the trucking industry to focus on the problems. There's just a huge amount of problem solvers because there's so many variables. So a lot of those positive things just get lost in the friction of all that. So that's something, it doesn't have to be some huge investment of technology. It can be a simple thing like capturing that good stuff, making sure it gets to the right people, the social media people, and someone that's going to reconnect the dot and get right back to the driver and make sure that they know they're appreciated for what they're doing, going above and beyond. So well done in that regard.
Absolutely.
And so in the recent years, you've launched your own school. So it's becoming a little bit of a trend with some of the high performing companies and the best fleets. So can you share your experience on starting your own CDL school?
Well, we had big plans to get it rolling closer to March of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then we met some challenges and adversity, which we're all familiar with, the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we pumped the brakes on it and said, I think we need to just pause and see where this takes us and learn how to adapt to the new environment that we're working and living in. So we felt like we needed to still strategize, but keep it off in the distance. And finally, after a few additional meetings over the summertime, we felt, you know what, it's time to get this going again. I think we can do this safely. We've got great protocols enacted at all of our locations. We'll apply that to the school. We'll keep the class sizes small. And in August of 2020, we started the program. So we've just had our 1-year anniversary. We've had a lot of great success with it. And we welcomed in our first ELDT student, we're calling them, although the mandate isn't effect yet. We're just referring to them as the ELDT students because we're following that program.
For sure.
And it's been fantastic. From day one, they're an employee. They get paid for their training as an employee. And we invest a lot of time and effort into that 4-week program that helps them obtain their CDL. And then from there, we insert them into our finishing program, which any other driver from a accredited school would come into. and they go out on the road anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks with a driver trainer based on the type of program that they want to do, if they want a team or if they want to run solo, and if in turn they themselves want to become a driver trainer. It's been primarily focused in the Minneapolis, St. Paul metro, but we have taken students from different states and surrounding communities, and it's given us some ideas about expanding that program to kind of bolster another leg under our stool from where we get our drivers. You know, currently, prior to the school, there were two places. You could go into the experienced driver market and recruit alongside everyone else, big and small. And then you can go to the schools and hire students, finish them out, and then try to retain them brand new to the industry. But this is a third way to do it now. Take them right from the beginning. They have their permit. Now they need to get their CDL. And we can train on the things that are not only required, but important to us and our culture, our values, how we do things, the attitude that we take when we do these things, how we treat the customer, what safety means to us, getting familiarized with our systems early on so they know that that camera in the truck is definitely there to help them, to exonerate them, and maybe give them some coaching pointers at the end of the day.
On the cameras or on the technology in general, my assumption is, and it could be completely wrong, but the demographics skewing towards younger, is that accurate?
Well, we see a nice mix. By and large, our ELDT students, I would say, might tread on the younger side, but we do see folks that want to get into a second or even third type of career. It's not uncommon for students from schools that we partner with that have retired from one career, say like law enforcement, where someone might retire when they're 55, and then decide to do something in their retirement and travel the country and make some money while they do it. But I think we are seeing some younger students. You know, with the aging workforce, that's a big deal. The millennial generation is the smallest generation, whereas, the Gen X generation, which is the generation I think we're all a part of, whereas the millennial is the largest generation coming up behind us. So we are going to be able to capitalize on that as long as we can continue to show value for what we do here. And word of mouth and referrals are some of the best ways that we can do that. When someone has a positive experience within our program and they can tell other folks about it, it's really important to us. And matter of fact, we have a driver who came to us from another school who got his son enrolled in our ELDT program, and he's currently in there right now. So nice. It's kind of one of those organic growth deals that we hope will help propel us into additional growth and efficiencies.
Nice. And Bonnie, from a technology point of view, has this cohort or this group given you new challenges within the company or new opportunities? Are they more pliable?
I would say possibly some new opportunities, more so. Just different ways of being able to communicate with the drivers, whether we're sending them email communications, text communications. They're full of ideas, right? Because they're coming out of either a different industry or, you know, right out of some kind of school, or they're younger. So definitely the technology adaptation from that side of the business has been helpful for my department in particular. We like new ideas because usually if somebody comes to us with an idea, it's going to service a lot more of our drivers than it would just the one or two that bring their idea. So definitely some new ideas and new opportunities as far as that goes. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, that kind of transitions into one of my next questions that I wanted to talk about. Bonnie, this is for you, is you received a lot of it, or Halvor Lines and yourself, you received a lot of attention during 2020 for your efforts to digitize the driver workflow process. So you're recognized by CCJ in their Innovator series. And can you just talk a little bit about how that all began? I think it's a great story, and more importantly, I'm always curious, maybe a little bit nosy, where that journey's taking you now.
It it began with an idea of, this concept with COVID of contactless paperwork. We were already utilizing a electronic signature vendor, and we were interfacing our TMS at the time with their API and utilizing that particular solution for helping our owner operators get their maintenance reports into us, trainees getting some sign-off documentation. A fun one we had was there was an owner operator out on the road, and he and his wife were closing on a house. And so we were able to get his signatures via our vendor solution, DocuSign solution type solution. And he didn't have to be home to purchase a new home, which was fun. He was thrilled. So really just problem solving, right? So we started thinking about how can we keep the humans from interfacing closely and spreading this virus, keep our driver workforce healthy, and also our shippers and consignees, the folks we're delivering to. Let's mitigate transmission. So, we had the technology. It was really truly a matter, it sounds simple, but it was really truly a matter of connecting the dots and then solving any of the potential pitfalls that we may run into. One of the challenges we had when we came up with it was multi-stop loads. How do you make sure the right bill of lading gets sent to the right receiver for signing? I mean, how do you allow for that? So I put my head with, my team, the IT group, and talked about what were the points of interest that could give us the information so we could allow this to flow correctly. And then not only get it out there for our drivers to have the control to be able, because they're the ones with the paperwork in hand, potentially, right? Or they could just scan that paperwork at the shipper and leave without the actual physical paperwork because they have an image of it. So we just took it step by step, connected the dots, tried to step through it so that we were aware of any kind of pitfalls or problems, and then figure out a solution for each of these individual problems. It took us the ideas came together quickly. We really knew we had something pretty exciting within about 2 months. And then it was just doing the work for my developers with all the API and interfaces to the transportation management system, the documents, electronic signature capture, our document management system as well. And then wrapping it all up in a nice little package so that it was quite simple for the drivers to use. Because adapting this technology, when you're working with people, you're running the gamut of who can accept it and finds it simple to use versus who just refuses to even try, and everything in between. So we knew we had to keep it simple, but we also had to have some pretty robust technology behind it. And thankfully it came together. Right now, we recently switched to a new transportation management system. So it is literally being rebuilt for that system as well. So not only a new TMS, but a new document management system as well here at Halvor. We went live 2.5 weeks ago, so we've got some work to do. But the EVOL that we were able to put out to our drivers during the pandemic, and really even still during the pandemic, we've had some early adapters who've stuck with it and love it. We've had some people who have refused to try it. I understand completely, and I expect that. But we've had quite a few shippers and receivers that are at this point now asking for it. They want the drivers to use the solution rather than to be interfacing and have the people interfacing too closely together. I mean, for obvious reasons, nobody wants this virus. So it was really, necessity is the mother of invention. And this particular situation that's exactly what it was about, keeping our workforce healthy. And our partners, our customers, all of the above.
No, great work. And in terms of your predictions for the future, when do you envision a time where there are no documents? It's just the drivers drive?
If it were up to me, it would be when I have it ready with my new TMS. I think it's going to take the human condition to significantly change, because we have a lot of people, our driving workforce, our shippers, our receivers, they still believe they need that paper. And I would love to see it go away in 4 months, but that's not realistic because, you know, not everybody's me, right? Our ideas are different, thank goodness, right? It's what makes us better. Hopefully, I'm going to take a guess, 2024.
Well,
maybe?
okay, it's very specific. I think we're gonna replay this in 2024 and see how you did. But no, I think that's a great goal.
I don't think it'll be 100% adaptation ever. Let me put it that way. But if I can have 75% of our drivers utilizing electronic signage and of our shippers and receivers, I would consider that a win by 2024, because 2022 is right around the corner. So that gives me what, 2 years and a couple months?
Yeah. No, and you know, you can buy a house without physical signature.
Yeah.
Why not, right? No,
well, lots of problems can be solved with this tool.
For sure.
Yeah.
So another nice one, Adam, that I observed from your submission was, you know, you obviously ramped up communications and throughout the pandemic. Something that I think was developed not necessarily for the pandemic, but was a nice add, was you have a process where you assign all new drivers to one specific dispatcher before they get kind of put off to another dispatcher. Can you describe how that decision came about and some of the benefits that you've reaped from that?
Well, I think that decision was made because we noticed a trend with one particular dispatcher that seemed to be very successful with our newly assigned drivers, whether they were students or experienced drivers from another company. And he seemed to be one of the best ways to introduce them into the fleet. It's not disparaging any other of our driver managers. They're all excellent. But just like with everything else, he had a specific touch that was very empathetic, very more of a coach, very, very good coaching mentality. And I mean, just quite frankly, a little more easygoing and was more patient, which seemed to keep his turnover numbers a little bit better at times. And so we thought to ourselves, why not assign new drivers to him? Now, of course, that's in our van division. And our refrigerated and flatbed divisions, they get assigned different driver managers, but our van division is our largest division. And it seems to have worked to the extent that many of the times when we have to move a driver manager to a different, or a driver to a different fleet to make room for newer drivers to come on board, some of them say, I don't want to move, I want to stick with him. And they've been coached and encouraged enough by that driver manager to adapt to every situation. All of our folks kind of drink the cultural Kool-Aid that's served at Halvor Lines, and we all have the same values in terms of how we comport ourselves and how we do business in the industry. So it's not a bad thing, but it's a great introduction into the company just because he's got a touch with people that is very difficult to teach. It comes with a lot of life experience, and just his personality is very special.
Yeah, it's such a simple and needed, because as you guys are well aware, as every viewer pretty much will be well aware, you know, the large percentage of turnover happens in that first, 60, 90, 120 days. And if you can do a lot of those things, be more patient on the front end, you're going to reap the rewards on the back end. So I thought it's a great idea. So do you have any plans to, or if the demand's there, kind of duplicate that process or add another person?
We would love to do that in all of our divisions, but similar to like like I said, the van division being our largest. In our refrigerated division, we are seeing a lot of expansion, although in flatbed, that's doing very well too. I feel like we would replicate it should the opportunity present itself. And like I said, this individual just seems to work the best with brand new people coming right into the company. And it takes a special touch for that. You know how it is. If you ever worked in the industry, you've got a million different things that you have to get off your plate. Mm-hmm. If you want to, go home on time, which is kind of a non-existent thing in the transportation industry, but you try. And if you've got one driver that just needs another 5 to 10 minutes of your time on the phone to talk them into a better place and to show compassion and to show empathy that I care about you, I care about what's going on out there. And if I need to listen to you for a little bit longer and watch the red light on my phone, just keep blinking and keep blinking, then I'm going to do it, because down the road, that driver remembers that. And it's amazing what people do remember. They're going to remember how they were treated. They might not remember the exact interaction, but they'll remember how they were treated by that individual. And I'd like to say that all of our driver managers have embraced and are embracing that value. But yeah, it's just a special touch he has that is difficult to bottle and replicate. One of the things that we did during the pandemic as well is every one of the management team members, we chopped up a list, and every week we got 5 names of people to contact on the phone because of our terminals being, in a sense, locked down. And so we'd reach out to them and just simply say, hi, how you doing? Is there anything that you need? What's it like out there? Just showing them that they can call us at any time. And it was very popular. It was something that we kind of took from previous ideas during Driver Appreciation Week, where we kind of do the similar thing and try to make a physical contact or a phone call with every single driver at our fleet in a compressed amount of time. And it can be done. It's a lot of work, but now that our terminals are a little bit more open, it's improving interactions, and you don't feel like you're by yourself as much, and the drivers can come in and talk to us and see us in person. They could before. It was just a big process to do it, and we had to unlock a door and walk them through a hallway. And now we are in a situation where we feel a little more comfortable, at least in our areas of the country, in having more face-to-face interaction with the drivers.
Nice. And building on that and that interaction, you have you mentioned a green zone contest. I know that's connected with your device provider, your ELD and dash cam provider. Can you both describe what that is and how that's worked and how that's benefited Halvor Lines?
Yeah. So our dash cam is through Netrodyne, Driver Eye, based in San Diego. Great provider. Little plug for them, but they. I've received so many different comments from vendors and even people in law enforcement about the quality of the camera footage. It's just amazing. But the system at its core is designed to help exonerate drivers. You have footage of an incident or accident. Now you have it. You're good to go, right? Well, like the other legacy systems, it also provides some coaching opportunity. But what it sees and what it does, I think, transcends some of those legacy systems. The accuracy of it telling us if a driver makes a U-turn on a roadway, or monitors speeding, monitors hard braking, monitors stoplight and stop signs. I mean, if a driver does not come to a full and complete stop at a stop sign, even if they're going 1 mile an hour, the system will catch it and it will send an alert to us. And then when the driver checks their app, either on their tablet or on their personal handheld device, they're going to see that today they had a rolled stop sign. And they can actually coach themselves by looking at the event and acknowledging that they read it and, that it's important to stop at stop signs fully and completely. Mm-hmm. We can see it on our cameras. So the less events of that nature that they have, the better their green zone score is. And that's also a Netrodyne driver eye measurement. And one of the ways that they can actually improve it is by getting extra credit. They get something called a driver star if they do one of two things on the roadway. The first thing is if they can move over safely when there's either a broken down vehicle or law enforcement roadside. If they change lanes, the system recognizes that and it will award them a driver's star. Mm-hmm. The other thing that it does that I really like is creating separation after a cutoff. So if a vehicle moves in front of us from either the left or the right and creates an unsafe following distance situation for our driver, if our driver just increases that following distance even a little bit and reduces their speed, it recognizes them for doing something safe and giving them that extra credit, that driver star. So that adds points to their daily score. So how we look at it is the drivers that are getting in the tip top, which is 1,000. Some of them actually get over 1,000 with the extra credit. We look at their drive time throughout the week. And if it meets a certain threshold, because a driver that drives for 1 hour and has a perfect score, that's great, but it doesn't qualify them for the contest. They have to have a significant amount of drive time. And then we evaluate those drivers, what their scores are. And if you scored from 900 to 950, you get one entry into a contest. And if you scored 950 or above, you get 2 entries into the contest. And we basically assign each of them a number randomly, use a random wheel spinner, and then we have 5 contest winners that get $50 gift cards for Walmart. And we've thought about different ways on expanding that program. But right now it's really popular. Many of our newer drivers think it's great, and any metric out there that lets them evaluate themselves and they know that other people see it, many of them want to be in that top number. They definitely don't want to be at the bottom. For sure. And that helps drive their performance and motivate them to do better because it's right there. They can see it.
Yeah, and have you noticed over time a trending, so the averaging up of those scores?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. We're still not as high as I would like it. I mean, 1,000 would be great to be there every single week, but we've just expanded by leaps and bounds and done much better. And that has more to do with the number of coaching sessions that we focus on. So weekly we meet in our management meeting, and in our safety meetings we talk about how many coaching sessions people had per week. We do have one person that's devoted to just doing driver coaching. That's his primary job, and he does quite a few coaching sessions a week. But now our driver managers have been trained and taught how to do coaching sessions with their drivers. So the expectation is for them to do a certain amount of coaching sessions per week as well with their drivers. And that was a little difficult at first, but they bought into it and they found that it wasn't quite as difficult as they thought it would be. You're giving constructive feedback to someone who's doing something professionally, and many have been doing it for several years. And here you are back at a desk looking at a screen and saying, here's what you need to do things better. But the approach and how you do it and how you present it is everything. You cannot come off as being accusatory or punitive. You have to be encouraging and see the good and the positive in every type of situation. And I don't care how many speeding events or how many following distance events a driver may have triggered, I can always find one positive thing that they've done that shows me that they're a good, safe, competent driver. They just need to change their habits a little bit and change the way that they do things to kind of limit that risk that we're all a part of.
That's great stuff. And what I love is a dash cam that can actually record and recognize positive events. So do you know if there's like new ones coming down the pipeline in that regard? Or?
Well, and I was on Notre Dame's customer advisory board in 2019, and they've grown so tremendously. 2020, we obviously didn't have a meeting, but we met with their engineers and executives and talked to them about what we thought was good, and it was all trucking professionals that use their products. Folks like John Elliott from Load One, Lucas Maury from Grand Island, Rhonda Yost from PGT. We met with them for 2 days and just gave them oodles of feedback, and then wanted to know what's next, what else are you going to be doing. And although they haven't given us any additional hints about additional driver star events, they're always looking for things. One of the suggested events that I had was giving a driver star for reducing their speed 5 miles an hour under the posted speed limit on an exit ramp.
Good on. And it should be able to recognize that with the,
if it's posted. If it's posted. If it's not posted, then it has to reach into a national database and do some algorithms and things that are well above my head. And so many times, if that posted speed limit isn't there for an exit ramp, then it wouldn't trigger it. But you see some of these hairpins that are 10 and 15 miles an hour. Well, a big truck should be taking that probably 5 miles an hour slower than anyone else, possibly 10. But I felt like that was another great way that we could recognize drivers. But they are rolling out with new scoring metrics, virtual coaching that I mentioned previously. We've been pleased with them as a vendor so far. I know the podcast isn't about them, but
they got a good plug.
They have helped drive our success, just like many other vendors, yourself included, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's great. 2 final questions. The second last one is, if there are any carriers out there that are on the fence about whether to get involved with Best Fleets for 2022, which is less than a week and a half away until nominations open, what would you tell those, Bonnie?
I would tell them to go ahead and try it. I mean, it's absolutely, it's a challenge. It's challenging, but it's going to make you better. Anything where you're measuring yourself against other good companies with a good culture and good drivers, of course it's going to be a challenge, but again, it's going to make you better. So
good. Adam?
I would just say, why not? I feel I don't want to get too deeply philosophical, but we're all here, I believe, to improve every day and be better than ourselves. No one else, just be better than you were yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Why wouldn't you want to do this? Why wouldn't you want to retain drivers and implement programs that on the front end may cost a little bit of money, but there's always going to be an ROI. And sometimes it's just scary stepping into the unknown. I say there's already a plethora of risks in trucking. This is a very small risk. The worst that's going to happen is they don't get selected, and that's okay. Give it a shot.
That's perfect. And my final question, which is a fun one, I ask this on each podcast, is individually, what are your favorite travel destinations and why? Bonnie?
Somewhere I haven't been.
There you go. I hadn't heard that one before. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're an adventurer.
I like discovering new places and learning about new places. I particularly like the foliage and plant life in new places because having grown up and lived my whole life in Minnesota, you can imagine going anywhere else virtually in the United States, the trees and the bushes and the animal life, it's always quite different than what we have here in Minnesota. So that's probably the most fun, but definitely just new places.
Your last best place that you went to that just pops out at you immediately?
This is Maui. My
Yep,
husband and I were in Maui when when I started thinking about the EBOL idea. Traveled there with my in-laws.
So Halvor Lines should send you there to come up with other new ideas.
Or somewhere
Once
else.
a year, maybe?
That sounds fantastic.
The whole team should go to Maui.
Yeah, I like the way you think, Chris.
Nice. Adam, how about you?
Well, it's a place that I haven't been able to visit for a couple of years due to the pandemic, but the Wabakimi Provincial Park in Northern Ontario. Every year, my family, my brother, my dad, my uncle, cousin, all go there and do fly-in fishing trips on different lakes. We've been on several lakes up there, so we almost know them without looking at a map. And we've missed out on those primitive fishing trips that take you off the grid and put you out in the wilderness that only a handful of people have seen throughout history.
For sure.
And it's something that I relish looking forward to in 2022, to get back out there and get my line in the water and grab some of that Canadian walleye.
Yeah, I hope both ways, the borders are open and we can be free to travel to all our favorite destinations across North America and elsewhere. So now that's a great way to end the podcast. Once again, thank you for taking the time for this. And I know I'll see you guys all soon. Are you both going to Vegas for TCA convention or no?
I'm not.
No, I went to the TCA safety meeting in St. Louis in June and attended that. But I believe that you should see someone from Halvor. I believe Ryan is going to go.
Yep.
But we're staying back here and manning the fort.
There you go. Well, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate you taking the time and also participating in Best Fleets for now. I believe it's 11 years of participation. So well done. Kudos, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Well, there you have it. Another great conversation is in the books. Special thank you to Bonnie and Adam for taking the time for it. If you like this podcast, you may like both future and past episodes. As such, please subscribe to our Best Fleets YouTube channel or subscribe via your favorite podcast app. Until that next time, stay safe.